Hello? Am I live now? Am I live here? Let me make sure I get it going here as people are going to join. Who knows how many people are actually going to join? Nobody really knows. But let me see here. Get that going. So we got that. You guys should be able to hear me. That's lovely. That's good. And there was one other thing I wanted to do before we get to rocking and a rolling here. But anyway, welcome in, everybody. Hello. All right, we're rolling audio for the podcast version, and here we are. Rock on. Hello. Let me actually send out a little message here to let people know that I am live in living color right now on the tube of you. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for joining the party, pal. Let's see here. Josh in a show live. Just let me make sure I can get this sent out to people. Bear with me really quick. Let's see here. We will go with... Oh, I can't find the damn share button on here. There we go. Share, copy link. Let's see here. We will go to Twitter. I'm live on YouTube now. There we go. And there's a lot of exclamation points. That means it's legit. There we go. That should work. All right. So see if anybody joins us. Welcome in, everybody. All up in us. Actually, that's what I meant to do. Let me change that logo in the background for everybody. Let me change that. Then we will get ourselves rocking in a roll. There we go. Now we're talking. But hello. Hello. Hey, Demir, where the hell you been, brother? Been looking all over for you, man. I thought you were dead. I see you nowhere. But hello, Demir. I'm glad that you're with us today, Demir. Thank you, pal. And hopefully we get some people in here. Again, I don't really set any scheduled times for any of this. Maybe if I start doing that, maybe some folks will hop in the party. Very possible. But we'll see. I guess I got to see what time people are really interested in joining. Really, I'm trying to do it after I get done at work while I'm here, because I mean, this is where the stuff is. This is where all the audio equipment is and the video equipment is. So there you go. But I think once we get a set time and a set time for people to watch it, maybe we'll have more people. It'd be better to do it at night when I'm hammered drinking wine. But my shit at the house, let me tell you something. I'll tell you about my house. Bless its heart, my house is a shithole. I know I've talked about this, but like Detroit, wonderful place, nice people. It's cold as shit. It's like -2 degrees wind chill. Like it might be even worse. Like -5, 6 degrees wind chill right now. It fucking sucks. It's cold. I don't know how people choose to live in this. If I had my druthers, I'd be somewhere warm right now. Like our guy that does mornings over on the other station, his kid's a radio guy in Tampa. So from what I gather, he's over in Tampa for the next week. If I had my choice to be in Tampa right now, or I had my choice to be sitting freezing my dick off in Detroit, I would 100%. That's no knock on Detroit. That's no knock on the people. That's no knock on the people who employ me. That is just a statement of reality. If you gave me an opportunity right now to live somewhere where it's warm, like 60, 70 degrees right now and sunny, or live in a place where it's -10 degrees and it's so cold that I can't take my dog for a walk. I cannot take my dog for a walk in this weather. He starts limping after 2 minutes because his paws are freezing. He's getting frostbite. So if I had my choice in life and they said you could live anywhere you want to live, Detroit, as much as I like the folks and it's a nice city and in the summertime it's lovely, this is like a fucking nightmare. And I know, like, I get criticized for talking on the podcast a lot about the weather, and people are like, weather talk's not entertaining. You will listen to my bitching about the weather because it sucks. Like, it is like yesterday I took Ross out for a walk, right? Early in the day, he was able to go a little bit longer. It gradually got colder. So sometime around the evening time, I decided to take him for another walk. And he made it about 5 minutes before he started limping and yelping to the point that I had to pick him up and carry him back to the car. So I tell you all that to tell you this, that this weather is not for me. I hate it. I despise it. It's gross. It's like, I don't understand how people choose to do this. Like, if this is what you're born into and you just like, you know what, I'm never going to leave, that's fine. If someone has an option in life if someone's got choices, if someone's got the opportunity to go somewhere and just like pick their place, I don't understand how somebody would pick to live in Detroit in January. Like I had a buddy that lived in Minnesota and he had to move back to Minnesota. And he would tell me constantly about how miserable it is, how it's like negative temperatures. The one time I went to Minnesota, I've been to Minneapolis one time. It was for the infamous Super Bowl, the Radio Row thing. And I went to the game and everything. I waited in line to go to the game and to go to a concert before the game, right? So I was in line waiting to see Kelly Clarkson. And we like Mattress Matt got us the tickets for the Super Bowl. We also had like the pre-game concert tickets to see Kelly Clarkson in this venue that was relatively close to the stadium. Waiting in line to get into that show, my beard froze. It was frozen. My beard was ice, and it was awful. That was basically happening to me last night when I was walking my dog. I was feeling little icicles on my beard, and it was awful. So I tell you all that to tell you this. Like the people in Detroit, I enjoy the people I work for in Detroit. Nice radio station, everything. But living in Detroit this time of year is just a constant barrage of snow. Then you might get lucky. And by you might get lucky, I mean the snow may melt. Like we had that a couple weeks ago. We had a nice little stretch. It rained a couple times and all the snow went away. And it was lovely. There was no snow. But then right after it melted and you thought, just when it's safe to go back outside, you know what happened? It snowed again. And now it's never going to melt. And why is it never going to melt? Because it is negative 10 degrees outside. This snow will never melt. It is snow on top of snow on top of snow. And again, I'm not bitching about the job. I'm not bitching about any of that. I see people who are like, down in Houston right now that are probably dealing with like 60-degree temperatures. And I'm seeing people who are dealing with, 50s in other places. Like I think Philly I saw was somewhere like in the 30s or 40s or something like that. And I'm like, my God, that's tropical. I'll put on a Speedo for that shit. Because right now, what we're dealing with temperature-wise right now in Detroit, like it hurts. Like I woke up this morning, like I got up at like 4:30 today to get ready for work. Like being outside for 2 minutes, you feel like you're going to die. Like you feel like Jack Nicholson at the end of The Shining, like you just start freezing to death. And it is terrible. It is not good. Anyway, I should probably stop bitching about the weather because I get accused of bitching about the weather too much, but it really is terrible. And I would really love to just have a smoker. I want to have a smoker outside. I want to enjoy, like I see buddies of mine in Houston who have outdoor setups, and they're just sitting there enjoying their lives. Life is good. They got a smoker outside, a grill outside, they got a TV outside, and they're living the dream. What I wouldn't give to live that dream. Because I basically just sit in my house now and wait to die. That is my life right now. I wait to freeze to death. That's what happens for me now. You can always purchase a chimenea. I could, but that'd be something. I'd just sit outside with a chimenea and read my Louis L'Amour books and do it like old man Sam used to do it in Houston. So, anywho, getting into some stuff here that isn't weather related. Although, again, I could talk about this shitty weather all day. There's ice everywhere. You slip everywhere you go. You know who I really commend, though? I really commend the people who work these blue collar outdoor jobs. Those are the people who I have a lot of respect for. Why do I have a lot of respect for those people? I respect them because they're folks that have to go out and actually work in this shit, have to put on layers upon layers of Carhartt shit and like freeze their asses off working construction and shit outside. You want to know who I have no respect for? Kids. You know why I have no respect for kids? Because these kids don't have to go to school today because it's cold. Like literally, it's too cold for the kids to go to school. Well, these kids are dopes. And I don't know how parents react to these things. Like, I don't know. Like, I would imagine like the parents would prefer that school gets canceled the day before. So at least like, that it's getting canceled so you can, at least prepare for that. But the idea that you're sitting here and it's fucking cold and it's like, hey, guess what? We don't have to go to school today because it's fucking cold. When I was in Philly, okay, when I used to work in Philly, there'd be days that they would cancel school because it was too hot. And by too hot, it's like 85 degrees, which in Philadelphia is nothing. Like it is a nothing burger. Like for at least, I say 85, it's hot there. Like you go down to Houston or whatever, 85 is December, right? But you'd go down in Houston or you'd be in Philly and they would cancel school because these school buildings didn't have air conditioning. Like, how the fuck do you cancel school because it's 85 degrees outside? And that's what you would get here. Like here, it's the reverse though. Oh, it's too cold. The kids can't go to school. Like, huh? What are we doing? Really quick, let me post a link to let people know on that we are on Instagram as well. Let's see here. YouTube. Let's see here. I'm live on YouTube. Thank you. There we go. Again, this is, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this or not, but I figured I got the equipment here and it's set up for me, so I might as well give it a shot. Let's see here. I'm live on YouTube. Join me. There you go. And then it's just a depressing picture of me getting snowed on. I call my dad every day and just bitch about the weather. Now, granted, we used to live in Montana when I was a kid, but I don't remember much about that. It's really ridiculous. Like, I don't remember ever having snow days when I was in Montana. And in Montana, it snowed all the time. Like, I remember, like, I know that I see the Monty shows are mocking me there, saying, like, back in my day, you'd walk to, you know, in a blizzard and all that. Look, real talk. When I was in Montana as a kid, I don't remember much about it. But what I do remember is that in Montana, there was never a snow day. And I remember trudging to school in snow pants, giant starter jackets, multiple layers, snow boots. Like you can mock me and all that shit, rock on. But that's how it was, man. Like they didn't cancel school. You'd live in Montana and those cats did not cancel school. Here, it's cold and they're canceling school. If my fat ass has to wake up and go to work, if my fat ass has to go out and shovel the sidewalk, then these stupid ass kids can get themselves into class and do a little learning. Like, hey, why'd you not go to school today? It's cold. Screw off, kids. Hey, nobody got time for your bullshit. No one's got time to hear some kids who know nothing about life getting to stay at home because it's too cold. And you know exactly what those kids are going to do? Those kids are going to end up going outside and playing in this fucking cold weather. That's what's going to happen. So what's going to happen is these kids are going to take their asses outside and they're going to sled and they're going to do everything, but it's too cold to go to school. That, my friends, is bullshit. My ass had to be up at 4:30 today. I had to sweep snow off the fucking car. Had to get the ice scraper out. And these kids are like, no, can't go to school today. Sorry, guys. It's too damn cold. Too cold to go to school. Yeah, it's cold as shit. Guess what? Get your asses to school. Because right now, it's sunny. I don't see any fucking snow. So that literally you are canceling school because it's cold. Reading some of these comments. Did you have your cowboy hat and bolo tie? You make jokes. I did. I didn't wear those to school, but I did have a cowboy hat and bolo tie in Montana when I met Muhammad Ali. There's a picture of me with Muhammad Ali. I'm wearing a cowboy hat and a bolo tie when I met Muhammad Ali in Montana many moons ago. Come rain, snow, or heat, get your ass to the schoolhouse. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to convey here. That's the message I'm trying to convey to you. There is no way that there's ever a situation where we're sitting here and like there should be kids that aren't going to school because it's too cold. If you want to tell me there's a tornado warning, then don't go to school. You want to tell me there's a hurricane warning, then don't go to school. You want to tell me it's a fucking blizzard, don't go to school. But if you're going to sit here and tell me it's too cold to go to school, now it's ridiculous. That's all. And look, do I sound like an old man bitching? Yeah, sure. I'm 39 years old. I have to go. You know who has to go shovel the sidewalk? Me. You know who has to find a way to get his dog to go outside and keep him entertained? Like, look, my poor dog has to find a way to be entertained. All right? Like, He has a lot of energy. This fucking dog is like a damn greyhound. It's like my dog is constantly on blow. Like he just has nonstop energy, just nonstop. Go, 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 go. That's my dog, Ross. He needs a lot of exercise or he's a pain in the ass all night and he's angry. How the hell do I get a dog exercise when he can't walk outside because it's negative 10 degrees? How? So now what I got to do is I got to walk through every damn home improvement store to get him any exercise. So what I have to do is I have to be like, well, here we are, live from Home Depot, live from Lowe's, live from Menards. Actually, Menards doesn't even let dogs in. So I have to keep going to places that let dogs in. Here's what they should do. They should take all these shitty, almost dead malls and let people walk their dogs in there when it's negative 10 degrees. There's an idea for you. Whenever it's cold like this, like there's a dead mall right down the road from my house. It's got a couple of stores open. It's got a JCPenney. There's a Dick's. So it's not like full on dead. But ain't nobody in there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday. What they should let you do is they should let you bring your dogs into the mall and walk them around to get them exercise. Fuck it. I may just do it anyway. I might go rogue with it and just see if they catch me. What are they going to do? Do you think there's somebody in the mall, some security guard at a dead mall who's going to be like, sir, you can't have your dog in here? They probably don't give a shit. I might just give it a shot. I've also contemplated, just like defrauding the system and putting like some sort of vest on that like looks kind of like it's like a service dog vest. But if you actually read it, it doesn't say it. So I'm not committing any sort of like, crimes or crimes of dickheadedness. If I were to just go and say, all right, I'm going to put a vest on, the kind of vest that they look like, the service animal vest, right? If I were to take a service animal vest that's not a service animal vest, but just has like his name on it, and people from afar would be like, oh shit, that must be his seeing-eye dog. Oh shit, that must be like his seizure dog or something. See what I'm getting at here? See what I'm doing? See, if I do that, then maybe I can walk him around the mall. And then someone says, wait a minute, that's not actually a service dog because I never claimed it was a fucking service dog. His name is on his thing. You're the one that assumed it was a service dog. I thought maybe since it's negative 150 outside, maybe you'd let me walk my fucking dog around the mall for 5 minutes to get him some fucking exercise. But anyway. How's your day going? All right, let's get into some other stuff here. So, Indiana last night. I found myself annoyed by Indiana. Like, I didn't want them to win, and I don't like them. And here's part of the reason why I don't like Indiana. My issue with Indiana is that I find something odd and off-putting about being able to take a program that 2 years ago was completely dead and within 2 years can win the championship, like the straight up overall championship. That's off-putting to me. Why is that off-putting to me? Because it feels like they didn't have to earn anything. Like, it's not like a rebuild where like, you're like, hey, we're good this year. Now we're better. Like, yeah, I get it. They were decent last year. They were good last year. And then this year they win the whole thing. I'm put off by it. Like, I don't think that's the way this should go. I don't think in college athletics, you should just be able to buy your way from being a complete unknown, by the way, a complete irrelevant program. Now, it's one thing if you're in Alabama, LSU that has a down year, Florida, or wherever, like a school that's got history. When you're a no-name school like Indiana that's been horrible, the worst football program possibly in the history of college athletics, I'm put off by the idea that you can just within 2 years win the championship. To me, it waters down the idea of the championship. Like, it bothers me that happens. Like, it's like when I watch that, like, I know that we're supposed to treat this like it's the greatest accomplishment in the history of sport and it's the greatest accomplishment in the history of college athletics. And to a degree it is. Like, it's impressive that they were able to take this nothing program and turn it into a something program. Like, I get that. Like it is a story and I understand why it's a story. Like, I fully get that, like, Indiana from 2 years ago having nobody at their games to now everybody's an Indiana fan and they win the national championship in Florida's building. I'm aware that that's a story and I understand why it's a story. But like today I'm looking at some guy, I guess he's an announcer maybe for Indiana or something like that. I forgot what he was, but he had a picture from a press box 2 years ago. And he says, I took this picture at the Indiana game 2 years ago where Indiana had to go 4 overtimes to beat Toledo and the stadium's basically empty. It's fucked up to me that a stadium goes from basically empty. I've never met a human who is an Indiana football fan to now within 2 years, you can just go get the championship. And to me, I think it waters down the championship. Where's the climb? Where's the Miley Cyrus here? Where's the climb? Where's the, build it, finally get over the top? Where's the Detroit bad boy Pistons where it's like, all right, you have to beat the Celtics to get over the hump, and now you finally get over the hump? What hump did Indiana have to get over? All Indiana had to do was throw some cash at a couple guys, and Indiana runs through it. They get a good coach, throw some cash at some guys. I don't know. I understand why it's a story. And I understand why people are into it, and I understand why it's considered this great accomplishment. I'm just not into it. It feels like it waters down the overall sport. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it feels to me like when I'm seeing pictures of 2 years ago, these dudes playing in an empty stadium, and I've never seen Indiana football fans ever. And now I'm seeing fucking Mark Cuban, diehard Indiana fan, and John Mellencamp and all these fucking people. And I'm like, no, I don't feel this. It's not like when the Boston Red Sox won the whole thing, right? Like when Boston won the World Series back in 2004. It felt like for years and years and years, these people had their dicks just ripped off of them, like their hearts ripped out of their chest. They were damn close. Bucky fucking Dent, or this walk-off homer here, or like the year before that, they had the Aaron Boone walk-off home run to eliminate them against the Yankees. Like it felt like they had to deal with strife because they legitimately cared and they were getting their heart broken, right? That doesn't feel that way with Indiana. It just feels like for 50, 60 years, no one's given two shits about Indiana football. It's a basketball school. I guess I don't feel like those people have had to legitimately deal with the pain of being an Indiana football fan because they just didn't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Does it make sense in what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like they ever had to full on go out and deal with the actual pain of the situation. They never had to deal with, oh, God, we were this close, but a guy missed a kick. They didn't have to deal with Scott Norwood missing a kick. They didn't have to deal with going to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row or whatever, like Buffalo, and deal with the pain of that, right? And Indiana hasn't had to do that. All Indiana had to do was like suck. And again, no one was hurting over Indiana football sucking because no one gave a shit about Indiana football sucking because no one gave a shit about Indiana football in general. Now they do. Like, again, good for the coach, good for Fernando Mendoza. But I don't feel like they earned that. You know, like I'm an LSU guy, right? LSU dealt with heartbreak and terrible football, but they were always passionate about it. There was always 90,000 people at LSU games. People gave a shit. So like when they would lose, it'd be like, oh, these poor fucking people. Like they care about it. They're passionate about it. The Red Sox people, they care about it. They're passionate about it. So when they lose, it sucks and it hurt. Indiana going 2-10 every year with Jerry DiNardo didn't hurt anybody because no one cared. Now they care. So I know it just feels empty to me. Like I actually hate Indiana football. I really hate Cignetti. And there's something off about this Fernando Mendoza. Anybody who's like too nice and too godlike, like he is, that feels sort of like there's something else there. There's something strange about it, right? Like there's odd and off-putting things about this guy. Anybody, like he's weird, obviously, right? Like I'd never heard the guy talk. I used to bet on him all the time when he played in Cal. Like I feel like I discovered Fernando Mendoza. Late night, Saturdays, midnight, East Coast, like 1 o'clock in the morning shit. And there's Fernando Mendoza slinging it against, Stanford. And I used to watch those games and bet on him because the guy could sling. Watching him in that though, and watching him talk and like, it's to the point where he's so nice and so syrupy and so Mayberry. Something's off about it. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying that the guy's got like, severed body parts of hitchhikers in an industrial freezer in his kitchen. I'm not saying that there's a smell of decomposing bodies wafting from his apartment that people on the floor below and the floor above are complaining about. What I am saying is there's something weird. Like when someone's that nice and that chaste, something's afoot. There's a vibe that I'm kind of like, He's got a Mike Meltzer vibe? No, Meltzer's a weirdo. Yeah, I say weirdo. Meltzer's got a weird personality. But like, I know who Meltzer is. Like, so while Meltzer gives off a sort of serial killer vibe, it's not this type of serial killer vibe. Because like Meltzer's just straight up serial killer vibe. This person has the vibe of someone who shouldn't give off a serial killer vibe, but does give off a serial killer vibe. Like a guy who's like super chaste and religious. And I just want to thank my Lord Jesus Christ and the hoggies up front and blah, 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 blah. And then we come to find out that like he's killing hitchhikers. Like the 7-minute abs guy in Something About Mary, right? Like, how about 7-minute abs? And it turns out that he like almost killed the guy. That's sort of the vibe that I get in that. I don't know. I hate that. And it's very me. I'm aware that it's very me to hate something like Indiana, a story like Indiana. I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware that me hating Indiana football winning is very on brand. I don't dismiss that it's very on brand. It is definitely on brand for me. But it's to me cheapening. I feel like Indiana winning the college football playoff cheapened the college football playoff. And look, I'm aware of what college football is now. I'm not against paying dudes. Like, look, I'm an LSU guy. Lane Kiffin just signed 40 dudes in the portal, and they're just, I don't know where LSU's getting all this cash, but they're getting all this cash and they're paying guys. That's the way the sport is now. That's the way it all is. So look, I accept it. I'm not some guy that's going to yell at the mountaintops about how shitty it is, about how all this works, but I still struggle with the idea that Indiana, who did not even give a shit about football for 50, 60 years, decides to care about it and within 2 years wins the whole thing. I think it cheapens it. I think the idea of a school like Indiana being able to win the whole thing doesn't cheapen it. You know, like the little guy that can make good. I just don't feel like they've had to deal with the pain. And you might say, well, Josh, how would they not? They've sucked forever. When you suck forever, you just don't give a shit. You're not going to convince me that John Mellencamp was a suffering Indiana football fan. You're not going to convince me that that Mark Cuban was a suffering Indiana football fan. Of course, they weren't, because they didn't give a shit. No one cared. No one went to the games and no one cared because it was an obsolete program. Now within 2 years, they're winning fucking championships. And I don't know, it just, the whole process waters it down. Would Indiana be equivalent to the Houston Cougars winning the Natty? Not even close. Now, I don't believe that anybody really gives a shit about Houston Cougar football in Houston. Like, you can try, people tried to lecture me on that for years and years when I was there. That, oh, what about nobody gives a shit. They built them a brand new stadium, turn on a Houston Cougars game, it's half empty. No one gives a shit about the Cougars, even though they've moved to the Big 12 and they're a legit contender. That's the other thing. Like, at least the Cougars have had moments. Like, no one gives a shit about the Cougars, but they've had moments. Right, like they had a Heisman Trophy winner. They won football games at one point. They were in the big in the Southwest Conference. They had moments. Indiana football's never had a moment. Like, a moment for Indiana is winning like 5 games. Like, that's a big accomplishment for them. So when I'm watching that last night, I'm rooting against them because I think it's actually to the detriment of college football that a program that doesn't give a shit. To me, it's not fair. Like, let's think of a program that hasn't won anything but really gives a shit, right? Like, LSU people really give a shit, but they've won. Alabama people really give a shit, but they've won. Who's a program that Ole Miss? Oh, let's look at Ole Miss. The Ole Miss people really do give a shit. They're lunatics and they're fucking crazy and they're bipolar, schizophrenic whack jobs, but they give a shit. Like justice would have been Ole Miss winning. You lose your coach. You care. They always have cared. They fill up their stadium. They're passionate tailgaters. Like, them winning would have had some form of karma or justice. A team that hasn't given a shit for 50 years, now just showing up and winning the championship actually fucking sucks. They just decide one day we're into football and then they win. That sucks. In my opinion, that sucks. So take from that what you will. Other stuff. So I don't know why this continues to be the case, and this is my fault. I blame myself for it. But I posted that morphine photo of CJ Stroud turning into to Matt Schaub, and I said the more things change. And by people, and people started responding to it, and the overwhelming consensus I've gotten from people. Now, mind you, it was a joke. I was just trying to think of someone who the Texans have had in the past that was known for fucking up in the playoffs, throwing interceptions. Matt Schaub's career ended with like 7 straight games with a pick 6 or whatever it was. Like, it's a joke. The number of people that have revisionist Matt Schaub history who are now like, oh, wait a minute, Matt Schaub would have won that game. Like, first of all, it's a stupid argument. But, like, I wasn't trying to debate which quarterback would have won the game, but people want to come at me with, Matt Schaub would have won that game, no doubt. Well, I mean, Matt Schaub has no history of winning anything significant at all. But, like, somehow that became the argument. Brother, I lived in Houston, and I worked on sports radio there for over a decade of my life. And I was there for the height of the Matt Schaub, Arian Foster, Andre Johnson, Brian Cushing, J.J. Watt era of the Houston Texans, Gary Kubiak era, Wade Phillips era. I lived it. You can't come to me with your revisionist bullshit history about Matt Schaub. Like, all of a sudden now people are really into to Matt Schaub acting like he was some sort of underappreciated wizard of the quarterback position. He wasn't. He was what he was. Now, I will give you this. I think that I wouldn't say it was underappreciated, but I think when you go back and you look at that era of quarterback play, which was far superior to the quarterback play we see now. I mean, we're talking legends, right? You could argue quarterback play now is just shit, right? But that's back when men played the quarterback position. Brady, Manning, Breeze, the other Manning to a degree, Roethlisberger, like dudes who are, dudes that can sling it. Schaub got kind of lost in that shuffle because he wasn't those guys, but in that era, he was probably a top 10 quarterback. The idea that people are going to come at me on social media and fight me over whether or not Matt Schaub would have won a playoff game that CJ Stroud didn't win. Everyone in Houston hated Matt Schaub. Dude, I lived it. I watched the people burning Matt Schaub's jersey at the stadium. I watched it. I saw it. Now, that's not to say that everybody hated Matt Schaub, but the vast majority of people in Houston in that era were ready for Schaub to go, and most of them just would talk about how the dude was an interception machine. He was a stat gobbler. When the team was down by a shitload of points early, he'd throw for a bunch of yards, make the game close. Occasionally, they'd win. Sometimes they'd lose. But don't come at me. Lose me with the idea that Matt Schaub was some sort of underappreciated G that everybody loved. Nobody fucking did. Nobody in Houston loved Matt Schaub. He was fine. Nobody loved Matt Schaub. But now I start reading these comments from people, and conveniently, they all fucking love Matt Schaub because CJ Stroud threw 5 interceptions. So now they all fucking love Matt Schaub. Lose me with that. Lose me. Please and thank you. Uncomfortable conversation, says Rolando Flores, but Deshaun Watson is the most talented QB the Texans have ever had. That's not uncomfortable. It's not an uncomfortable conversation. The guy is the most talented quarterback they've ever had. He also couldn't prevent himself from jerking off in front of chicks, and now is out of football, basically super rich. You know who's a dumb human? I'm glad you bring that up. Can I tell you the dumbest fucking human on the planet? His hot-ass fiance wife. I don't know if they got married or not. What a dumb woman. Like, this chick is hot. She can fuck any guy she wants. Obviously, he's got a shit ton of money, but she's got money for herself. She's not poor by any means. She's a model and does cooking videos or something. She's smoking hot. She can fuck any dude with money she wants. But she's sticking with a dude that thought so little of her that not only did he like fuck around on her once, he was basically a serial predator that jerked off on a bunch of massage therapists. And she's like, you know what? I think this is the guy. I think, you know what? Out of all the guys out there that I could hitch my wagons to, I'm going to ride or die with this guy, which is an example of how money can change everything and fix everything for people. Because that guy looks like a giant piece of shit. But she's out here like, I love him. But Mom, I love him. No, you love his fucking money, I guess. Because while you have money on your own and would be fine, homegirl here is like, he's got a shit ton more money. And I'm going to ride or die with this guy. So she's a loser. Like, it's sad when like hot chicks like that are losers. That's a gorgeous woman, just super hot. And she's a fucking loser. Like, I can't view her in any other way but being a loser. But to your point about uncomfortable conversations, Rolando, saying that, Deshaun is the most talented quarterback the Texans have ever had. Well, he is. It's obvious. He's a more talented guy. He was a better college quarterback than CJ Stroud. If you remember when we had We had, what's his name, Dabo on the show, and he said that the guy's Michael Jordan. Like, I remember that day they drafted him. Like, I was sitting at that was the draft in Philly, right? So I'm sitting in Philadelphia doing the show, and they had drafted Deshaun. I had Dabo Sweeney on the air the next day to talk about it. He's like, this guy is Michael Jordan. He no doubt was the most talented guy they ever had. And he's a great what if. You know, what if the team wouldn't have completely melted down and hired David Culley and just given up on life for a couple years? What if the guy wasn't a total fucking creep that jerked off on massage therapists and wanted fingers in his ass when he was getting massaged? What if? If you want to talk about great what ifs, he's the ultimate. He's a great what if, and he's a great what if as it relates to Houston sports, but he's a great what if in general. You know, like you think of what ifs, you think of like Maurice Claret. What if he wasn't, you know, a lunatic that had the entire 007 GoldenEye arsenal in the back of his car and got arrested? What if? What if he wasn't a mental case? What if? They're great what ifs. What if Ryan Leaf wasn't a mental case? What if? I mean, like, not to be rude, but I mean, like, what if he didn't have the issues and the alcohol and the drug problems he had? What if? Deshaun Watson, as far as Houston what ifs go, there is not a greater what if in the history of Houston sports. Name it. Like, what if J.R. Richard doesn't have a stroke? Okay, that's a decent what if. But if Deshaun Watson isn't a total mental case, now maybe he leaves anyway because the team was a total clusterfuck in that era. That's very possible. But what if Deshaun Watson never, like, has no interest in getting massages from random people and jerking off on them and having fingers in his ass and everything else? What if? What if that never happens? What do the Texans become? You know, what if I love what ifs. What if the Texans would have held on and beaten Kansas City and gone to the AFC Championship game that year? What if? Creed, what if? I love a good what if. What if Jack Easterby wasn't a complete clown? Very good question. What if the Texans beat the Chiefs and the Texans make the Super Bowl? Do the Texans stick by Watson through the legal process? Well, I think that's a totally different story because it's a great question. But like, let's say they had, I mean, it's not unrealistic to say they would have been in the AFC Championship game because they were up by, 20 something points in that game. So to say that they could have, should have won it is fine. But that also changes the fortunes of Bill O'Brien. He's no longer the guy that blew the giant lead in Kansas City. Now he's an asshole, but he's an asshole that went to the first AFC Championship game in the history of the Texans, right? And maybe in that case, in your example, they go to the Super Bowl. So I think that just changes the fortunes of everybody. They don't fire Bill O'Brien and hire David Culley. You know, who knows? But to your point about, you know, the most talented quarterback they ever had, well, no question, it was Deshaun Watson. I'm with you. Let's see. What if CP3's hamstring never gave out? Then they win that game and they win that series against Golden State. But unfortunately, his hamstring did give out, and you had to count on James Harden, who is a known quitter and choker in those games. So you go to the NBA Finals at that point. It changes the whole outlook of that. What if T-Mac and Yao never got hurt? Then that team probably goes to an NBA Finals at some point, right? I mean, let's see. What is the schedule for the show, Josh? Never know when you're on. I don't either. I just started throwing this on today because I was sitting at the station. Let's see. I do enjoy that Cleveland watched Baker Mayfield become better than Watson in real time after Mayfield left for Tampa. I agree with that too. That's fun. But back to Stroud. So a lot of the shit I'm seeing is like now conveniently everybody thinks Stroud sucks. A couple weeks ago, if you would have said that Stroud sucks, they'd say you were crazy. He has a shitty game. Now, there's one thing I agree with. I think I saw Dan Patrick say this, that CJ Stroud cost himself a whole lot of money and millions of dollars, and he may never be the quarterback for the Texans long-term, probably not going to get an extension. That I agree with. But, and that's rough. I mean, homeboy went out and lost himself a shit ton of cash because nobody's looking at him the same as they did a month ago even. Like, he has been struggling for 2 years. And the questions about whether or not CJ Stroud is a guy that deserves a long-term contract, they've been up in the air. But that's mostly people in Houston because ain't nobody paying attention to the Texans by and large. Nationally, no one gives a shit. But what you end up with is you do that on the highest level and you do that in the postseason, and you end up getting your ass kicked the way you got your ass kicked, and everybody sees it, and it becomes a story, and people nationally see it, and all eyes are on you, that changes the overall view that people are going to have of you as a player. So I agree with Dan Patrick when he says the guy's cost himself millions of dollars. No doubt cost himself millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars maybe. Because as of right now, not only are the Texans not going to sign him to a long-term deal, I don't know how anybody actually watches that and says, we want to give him a long-term deal. But that said, and I keep seeing people arguing about Davis fucking Mills. Lose me on the Davis Mills stuff. You can't sit here and tell me that Davis Mills is somehow like would have been the answer in that game. And I think people misinterpreted what I said because I tweeted it the other day that you have to see what you have. You have to see if this guy is your long-term solution. And I think people took that as, that's not the time to experiment in a game like that. You got to play to win the game. I didn't say experiment. I said that you have to see if this is the guy that you believe in. If you pull him in that game, you acknowledge that he's not that guy. And you know Davis Mills isn't. Davis Mills could come back and win that game for you. That you ain't paying Davis Mills to be your starting quarterback years down the road. That ain't happening. So you already know that Davis Mills is not your guy. So why not stick with the guy that you have to see if that's a guy you want to invest in? Also, he's your starting quarterback. No other fucking team is benching their starting quarterback in that situation. Look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen sucked in the first half. And I get Josh Allen's got a better track record than CJ Stroud. But you know what's funny? Josh Allen has 8 playoff wins. And he's played in a lot more playoff games than CJ Stroud. You know what Stroud has? Stroud has 3 playoff wins. He's got almost half the playoff wins in probably less than half of the games. So doing the math, Josh Allen's 8-7. He's played in 15 playoff games in the playoffs. CJ Stroud is 3-3 in the postseason. He's played in 6 playoff games in 3 years. He has played in less than half of the playoff games that Josh Allen has played, and he has won nearly half the games. You can't just ignore that because he played like shit in that game. And I get that he struggled throughout the year. And look, it's a completely realistic and fine conversation to have about CJ Stroud. Is CJ Stroud the long-term answer? Are you going to give him a big contract? And right now the answer is no. But you can't dismiss the fact that this guy won 3 playoff games. He's 3-3 in the postseason. He's gotten you to the divisional round 3 times. Everybody blows Josh Allen. And Josh Allen, best quarterback in the league, one of them, fine. CJ Stroud is not Josh Allen. But Josh Allen, for all the blowjobs he gets from people, Josh Allen has won 8 playoff games. CJ Stroud's already won 3. How many years has Josh Allen been in the league? Was his first year 18? Right? That was the year that they lost at NRG. So was that 18 or 19? Whatever year that was, that they lost the playoff game to Deshaun Watson. My man's been in the league 7-8 years already. CJ Stroud's been in the playoffs or the league 3 years. He's won 3 playoff games. You know how many other quarterbacks the Texans have ever had that have done that? None. 0. So just take from that what you will. But like the idea that Davis Mills, like, so let's say you bring in Davis Mills in that game. So fucking what? You're basically saying at this point that CJ Stroud's not your guy and you're going to ride with Davis Mills. Because if you bench him for Davis Mills and Davis Mills wins it, now you win the game and that's great. But you're also saying that it's over for CJ Stroud. You're like, go back to Josh Allen. Do you think there was ever a thought they were going to bench Josh fucking Allen? No. You think there's a chance they're going to bench, if Caleb would have played poorly, are they going to bench him and bring in whoever the backup is in Chicago? No. So the idea that that was the thought from people in Houston, I think is preposterous. And I'm glad that the thought, allegedly, never crossed the mind of D'Amico. Now, I think he's lying. I think at some point you're at least watching that and you're going, should we do something here? Like, I'm sure that thought crossed his mind. But you're not actually going to do it. He's your fucking starting quarterback that's won you 3 playoff games in 3 years. How many playoff games have the Texans won in their entire history? Let's see. 2011, they won 1. 2012, they won 1. I guess they then won in what was the Brock year? 16. They won a playoff game that year. They won a playoff game in 19. And then they've won the 3. So if I'm doing the math, I think the Texans all time have won 7 playoff games. I might be off by 1 or 2. But by my calculations, Doc Brown style, the Texans have won 7 playoff games. CJ Stroud has won 3 of them. That's not to blow the guy and tell you that I think they should pay him $500 million or anything like that. Like, he may never be the long-term solution at quarterback. But Davis Mills certainly the fuck isn't. So the idea that the thought is crossing the minds of all these people and they're losing their minds over this, talking about Davis Mills and put him in, like, that is preposterous that you would do that. In fact, I think it's fucking dumb. It's absurd that the idea was, oh my God, put in Davis Mills. How many playoff games did TJ Yates win? One, right? I think he won it was 2011. Yates won the first playoff game in 2011 and lost the second. 2019 was the year for the Texans. They were up 24-0 on the Chiefs. Dude, I'm with you. And they had a better quarterback than they have now. Deshaun Watson was a more talented quarterback. He's just a fucking dipshit, and they should have won it, but they didn't. But the idea that Davis Mills would have saved the day, and then, like, let's say Davis Mills pulls up, doesn't play particularly well, but he takes care of the ball a little bit, and they end up winning that game. What's the next move? What do you do next week? So say you win that game, where does Davis Mills go after that? You're in the AFC Championship game. He rallied. Let's say he didn't play particularly well, but let's say the defense scores a touchdown, they win the game. Doesn't play great. Plays the second half, wins the game. So let's say they do that. Then what? Davis Mills starts the AFC Championship game. Davis Mills versus the Broncos. That's not going to happen. So B. Hannon says they're 7-8 in the playoffs. So I was right. They've won 7 playoff games. 3 of them have been won by CJ Stroud. And you guys want to sit there and tell me that fucking Matt Schaub, who I'm fairly certain won one of them, would have, again, it's a ridiculous discussion, but would have won that game. That is poppycock. That's like people can conveniently forget that Matt Schaub was fine. Nothing fucking special. Lose me. All right, other stuff. Moving on from the Texans. So, you know that I hate Sean Payton. I'm a Saints fan. I'm a Saints fan. And, I watched the Saints lose a lot of playoff games they had no business losing. We listed them yesterday, but again, you've got playoff loss to go down the list. The 7-win Seattle team. You lost to Alex Smith. You allowed yourself to get outdueled by Alex Smith in San Francisco. You lost to Case Keenum on a miracle play. You lost to Kirk Cousins at home in the playoffs. You lost to Jared fucking Goff in the playoffs. You almost lost to Nick Foles at home in the playoffs. And I'd argue you should have if Alshon Jeffrey doesn't drop a pass. So I've lived that life. I've experienced the life of a Saints fan getting crushed, having your heart broken. Like, I'm talking heartbreaking playoff losses under Sean Payton. Now, granted, they've won the Super Bowl, and they also were kind of gifted the Super Bowl by a really dumb decision by Brett Favre. But fine, we'll take it. Hey, you don't feel bad for people. You won the Super Bowl. You earned it. Fine. But after that Super Bowl, what was Sean Payton's playoff record after the Super Bowl year? Because they went to the playoffs in 11 and 12, right? He was suspended in 13, right? Or was it 12 or 13? I think he was suspended in 13. They didn't make the playoffs in 14, 15, 16. They then started making the playoffs again 17, 18, 19, 20. That was like the next golden era. How many playoff games did Sean Payton win after they won the Super Bowl? If I'm doing the math on this, let's see. I think they won a playoff game in 11. They did not win a playoff game in 12. They won a playoff game in 13, I think. And then I think they won one in each of the years they were good again in 17, 18, 19. So I want to say he's probably slightly under 500 in that stretch, right? I would say that they've won, my guess would be 5 playoff wins against like 7 losses might be the number. Point being is this. I enjoy Sean Payton, and I enjoy the Super Bowl that he brought to New Orleans, and I acknowledge that he's a wonderful coach because he is, and he's done a great job with Denver. But I would liken it to this, and this is why I really want them to lose, and I'm actually excited that their bum-ass quarterback is hurt, so they have to replace him with another bum-ass quarterback. I don't want to sit back and watch someone move on to something else and experience the things that I should have experienced. It's like when you're a child of someone, like a family that gets divorced and then dad moves on to another family, and like that new family gets all the good shit, and like you're the adult son now. And again, this is not something I actually know about, just to be very clear, but like you're the adult son of someone, and you had to live in the early days when things were a little bit more difficult, right? And you have to experience that whole situation. And then you get to see dad move on to a new family, and those new kids get to go to fucking Disney World, and they get to go to Universal Studios. And when they turn 16, dad buys them a car, and they sort of just ignore you, right? You know what it's like? It's like the movie Parenthood. Remember the Joaquin Phoenix character? Totally random example. But the Joaquin Phoenix character who lives with Diane Wiest, and like the dad is like had left them, and apparently he's like a doctor somewhere, and like his whole new family gets all the good shit that they didn't get. And like he basically ignores his current kid who's named like Randy or some shit, because everybody in the early 90s had a kid named Randy. And like he gets to like just watch from afar as like his dad lives this new life with his new wife and new family, and it's fucking bullshit. And then eventually he kind of lashes out. I think he breaks into his dad's office and like just smashes up all of his shit. That's me. I'm Joaquin Phoenix watching Sean Payton possibly win a Super Bowl with Denver. Because as a fan of the Saints, one of those Super Bowls should have been mine. And I don't want it to happen. I don't want him to have that kind of joy. I don't want to watch that shit happen. I watched Kirk Cousins in the dome march down the field and score. I've watched Jared Goff go. Now, granted, that was a unique situation, but I watched Jared Goff go into the dome, and whether you like it or not, Jared Goff won the fucking game. I watched Case Keenum throw a Hail Mary that beat you. I've watched Aaron or Alex Smith outduel Drew Brees. And I don't want someone else to have the joy I should have had at least at some point. So I very much want them to lose. And I'm glad. Look, I feel like somehow some sort of karma has found their way. Look, I'm not rooting for some guy to be injured. That's a dick move on my part. So it's unfortunate for Bo Nix, who has a really annoying haircut and a bad complexion. I don't like Bo Nix either. I think he sucks. I think he's on a long list of dudes who are not very good at playing quarterback in the current NFL, because we're in an era where there's a lot of shitty quarterback play. Even the guys who are considered the good ones, many of them suck too. Jackson, Lamar. I would question whether or not Herbert, Justin is all that good either. But those are like the elite dudes. So we have to blow them and say they're the good ones. So I don't like Bo Nix. I really hate Sean Payton. I'm here for the losses. I want those I want Sean Payton to get his dick knocked off. Now, granted, he's got a built-in excuse, but you know what would really suck? What would just destroy my soul? It would lead me to drinking Drano or throwing the toaster in the bathtub. Is if out of all those years with Drew Brees, Sean Payton found a way to lose playoff games. Again, we listed them. The playoff game against the Vikings twice, the Rams, go down the list, the Seahawks, 49ers. All those years that Sean Payton had Drew Brees and they never made it back to the Super Bowl. If somehow Sean Payton takes Jared Stidham to the Super Bowl, I will throw a toaster in the bathtub. Because you might as well just use my balls as a speed bag, because that will be the worst experience I have ever had as a sports fan. And that would include watching Sean Payton Saints lose in the dome when it was set up. We were going to the Super Bowl, watching them lose that game to the Rams because they had it stolen from them. That was the worst sports pain I've ever felt. Like, I don't even know that there's a Mount Rushmore of sports pain that I felt. It's like that, and then everything else is like 1,000 down. I've watched the Cardinals lose games in the World Series that I've attended. I've watched like LSU lose games that were heartbreakers. Like, I watched them lose the TJ Yeldon game at home when it looked like they were going to upset Alabama. Like, I've been to these games. I have dealt with legitimate sports heartbreak. We all have. This would actually be the worst sports heartbreak I've ever felt if Sean Payton takes his new shitty family to the Super Bowl with Jared fucking Stidham as the quarterback. Knowing that Drew Brees, one of the handful of the greatest quarterbacks of the last quarter century, one of the greatest to ever play the game, couldn't get back to another one. And given the guys that they've lost to, this would be the worst. This would go down as my worst sports pain ever. Hogbone says Vrabel's got this. I would think he'd have to. Because if Mike Vrabel loses this game, like, he's not going to get fired in Boston. If Mike Vrabel, defensive guru, loses a home playoff game, or actually I guess that wouldn't be a home playoff game, would it? Or would it? No. If they go on the road and lose a playoff game to Jared Stidham, you could actually make an argument that Mike Vrabel should not only be fired, he should be beheaded in the town square if they lose to Jarrett Stidham. Because given what they did to CJ Stroud, who is a better player than Jarrett Stidham, obviously, given what we saw there, if he goes into that game and loses this guy, Mike Vrabel took Ryan Tannehill to the brink of going to the Super Bowl. If Mike Vrabel, as the coach of the Patriots, finds a way to lose to Jarrett Stidham, I think he should be put in the Iron Maiden. Let's see. Vrabel should be the coach of the Eagles. Well, he's not, and he won't be. But there's some guys that just make sense in certain places. Tell me that Mike Vrabel doesn't make sense in New England, right? D'Amico Ryans makes sense in Houston, right? And there are very few examples of that where a guy plays for a team coach. Like Ditka makes sense in Chicago. There aren't a ton of those, but that's an example. Like Vrabel just makes sense in New England. Like, so I'm cool with that. Like Vrabel, New England, rock on. But Vrabel probably going to be coach of the year. There's a great case for Vrabel to be coach of the year. Although, probably also look at Ben Johnson. Vrabel's not going to win coach of the year. But the shit that he inherited from Gerard Mayo and now is going to have them in the Super Bowl, pretty fucking strong. What he's done with Drake May, and how much of that is him, who knows? But, like, he's got them back. So he's someone that should at least get attention for that. Not that I give a shit about who wins postseason awards, but you get the point. But if we run into a situation where Sean Payton goes to the Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham, I may actually cry. That it is the worst. It would be like, it would be the most crushing thing that's ever happened to me as a sports fan. I told you I've gone to Cardinals World Series games, but like, I can't even think, like, it's sad that that's the case. Like, obviously number one on the list is Saints losing to the Rams, and I'm sitting there in the stadium punching the ticket for the Super Bowl. I'm going to the city. I guess would it have been, was that Atlanta that year? No, it was Minneapolis. What year was that with the Super Bowl? What year was that? The game was in 2019. So I guess that would have been the year it was in Atlanta, right? So we would have been going to Atlanta, and I was going to Atlanta anyway, and I would have found my way into that game. And like, I would have been there and it would have been awesome. And I was planning it and it was great. And then it all went to hell. That was the worst pain I've ever felt as a sports fan, bar none. Nothing's even close. But watching Sean Payton take some loser like Jarrett Stidham to the Super Bowl when Drew Brees was left out year after year. Let us not forget the last Drew Brees image we have is that asshole. Who am I thinking of? The tight end, Jared Cook, that dropped the pass from Drew. And then it ended up being a turnover in a tight game. And then Tampa ends up winning and advancing in the postseason in an empty Superdome. And that's the last thing we ever saw of Drew Brees, and that 4-year run there where they were great. And Drew never got back to the Super Bowl again. And he takes his new family to the Super Bowl with Jared fucking Stidham. No, sir. I can't have that. That will hurt too bad. So, but anyway, with that said, it's about time for me to roll out. I appreciate you guys. I've been here for about an hour talking with you guys. So I appreciate you. Make sure you like it and subscribe and get notifications. Again, I need to pick a set time. Obviously, this is not the most popular time to do something on here because people are at work and shit. It probably get more people at night, but I don't have the setup at home to do this at night. I have this set up at the radio station now. And it's easy to do. It's one button and I'm on, so I can't really do it at home, but we'll see. But anyway, so like this, and also don't forget to make sure you download episodes of the podcast too, because that actually really helps me out. Can you get Jilly on? She didn't really want to do it. So it'd be easier to do if I were at home because Jilly works from home, but the setup just isn't conducive for that anymore. Just, we don't have the setup, and Jilly never comes up to the radio station. I just don't really think Jilly has all that much interest in doing it. So, and that's her prerogative. So she's busy doing her shit. So probably not. And that mean we can't do a pod or something with Jilly like we used to do, like the betting pods and stuff on Fridays. But look, I'd like her to, but I just don't really think she really cares to. That's like, I don't blame her. Like, I'm here at the radio station doing this, and she's got 1,000 things she's doing with radio stuff. So That's her choice. I don't fault her for it. But anyway, all right. I will see you guys later.